Look, we're not high-performance athletes here. There's a lot of things that are really easy wins that you can get. If you're not naturally talented at something, you need to...
Self-help superstar.
There's this great podcast called Modern Wisdom.
One of the biggest in the world.
By Chris Williamson.
You seem to have just gathered this knowledge about everything.
I can't think of a single pursuit that doesn't require a lot of consistency. Everybody has a history or a heritage of shit that they've done in their life that has given them a ton of experience. There's stuff that you have to do that someone who's more talented than you wouldn't have to do.
Relationships. How do you know when you should end one?
You've got this hormonal fugue state that's just dropped over you. You can no longer see the really, really toxic flaws that you know spell disaster for this relationship long term. So what you need to do is...
What do you want to be known for? Now, before we jump into today's episode, I just want to mention that this podcast is brought to you by me and everything that I have built to help you guys level up. If you want to transform your physique, build muscle, lose body fat, build strength, then you have the Thirst app. This has everything inside that you could possibly need to get yourself in shape, to hold yourself accountable as well. I also have the Digital Playbook, which is a step-by-step guide to help you guys build a following, monetize the following, and also build a strong personal brand. This is everything which I have done over the past nearly 10 years to allow myself to live a life of financial freedom and also geographical freedom. I can basically do whatever I want. Life is good. And I also have my newsletter, which has been revamped, where I'll share exclusive podcast insights, my raw thoughts on business, fitness, and much, much more. So if you're interested about any of those, check out the description. You'll find the links to all of them. Now let's get cracking with the episode. What is up, guys? And welcome back to First Things First. We are in Austin, Texas. And there's only one person I have to come and see in Austin, Texas, and that is Mr. Austin himself, Chris Williamson.
Someone from where you're from. You come all the way to Austin, Texas to see me. Someone that sounds like you. Went to uni with you, and people regularly confuse for being the same person. Yeah.
It's like speaking to a mirror.
Exactly. Beautiful.
How's life? Everything's good?
Busy, but good, man. Yeah. I'm fired up for this, yeah.
Who would have thought that we'd be here, sitting down in Austin, just...
18 years ago when we were at university together, that we would travel out to Texas and sit down to record a podcast together. Yeah,
mental. What is it? Tell me, is Austin as cracked up as everyone says it is?
What do you mean?
Everybody always says good things about it.
Well, anywhere that's kind of on the ascendancy, that's got a scene burgeoning. And, you've got Elon moving, I think X's headquarters out here soon. You've got a huge Tesla factory. This SpaceX is doing things here. Google's got a headquarters. Facebook's got a headquarters. And then comedy, it's huge. Music, it's huge. So kind of, a lot of different industries that people respect in terms of industry or leisure they're burgeoning here. So
you think you'll be here for good?
I don't know whether for good. Certainly for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Like, because I'm based in Dubai, and literally everybody always asks me something relating to Dubai as if I'm Mr. Dubai.
You are Mr. Dubai, though.
I don't know if I'd say that.
You had first mover advantage of going to Dubai. You were an early adopter.
Yeah. I like to have that one on me, before it was the cool thing to do. Yeah. So tell me, everything with the podcast, you're absolutely killing it.
Thank you.
It's, I think the most impressive thing, which I've noticed, because obviously I have mine, but I'm not doing it on the same level as you. It's just the sheer amount of consistency that you've had doing 3 a week for how long?
3 a week for 5 years, and we were going for 2 years before that as well. So, man.
How do you keep up with that consistency?
I don't know. It's like someone saying to you, how do you keep up with consistency in the gym? You just did, right? You had an amount of motivation that got you started, some degree of discipline that sort of got you through the middle difficult section. And then after a while, it's habit and it's kind of a part of you. It's like someone saying, how do you keep on breathing all the time? You go, it's just what I do. And I think people that are creatures of habit have a vicious sort of double-edged sword, because in one way, the habits can lead to them doing stuff that gets increasingly bad for them, a gambling addiction or going out and partying too much or not taking care of their health or not getting up on time. Like that becomes their habit. But if you're on this other side of the same pathway, it's, I can use this to my advantage and I can become obsessive over something which really works for me. And I seem to be good at channeling my obsessiveness into projects that are good. And there's just, I can't think of a single pursuit that anybody wants to be successful in that doesn't require a lot of consistency. There's very, very few things. Maybe you could fluke a Gangnam Style music hit and you're a one-hit wonder, and from that's it, just one perfectly timed song, maybe. But even that is, okay, so what did you have to do in order to be able to be the person that could produce that one-hit wonder song? Were you a total meme and you just absolutely fluked it? Probably not. You probably spent a very long time producing tracks that nobody listened to. And then it's just the first one that you released big that actually went and caught fire. So, yeah, creatures of habit have got a competitive advantage as long as you use it in the right direction.
I think that one of the things which I have been observing is just how you seem to have just gathered this knowledge about everything. Like, you certainly know a little bit about everything. That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Like
Jack of all trades.
You're having conversations with all sorts of people now, but you have like a lot of decent input in these conversations.
Yeah, I guess if you've got exposed to a lot of different stuff, you end up drawing lines between. It's the same as anyone that you know who's relatively wide read, which I'm not. But if someone's read a bit, like a good bit, they tend to just have loads of stories that you start talking about, like the problem of tides and fucking contamination of fish from Japan after a nuclear spill. And they're like, oh yeah, it's interesting because da-da-da-da-da. It's like, where the fuck did you pull that from? Yeah. And it's from some unrelated book that they got a hold of several years ago. And it's kind of the same with spending a lot of time speaking to different people, that even if you don't know something about this topic specifically, you end up having a reference point further back from something else that happened, something else that someone spoke about. And after episode 920 or something we released today, it's a lot of different little opportunities. Like, even if I just learned one thing per podcast, it's like 920 things. And that's a lot, right? There's probably something in there that's related to some question someone's going to ask me.
Do you feel as though, because I've noticed this as well with the ones that I do, it's quite hard to absorb everything. Like, do you find that once you've done an episode, it's difficult to recall everything, and there's just certain things that have really stood out? Like, do you have to go back and re-listen to some of them sometimes?
I used to do that, but I don't so much anymore, unless it's one that I really, really want to sort of hold on to stuff from. But yeah, honestly, remembering sort of one or two things per episode is probably a pretty high bar. As you know, and after you've done lots, Rogan's done 2,200 episodes. You think, fuck, like how much of that just can you recall? Especially when you start thinking about, that's a decade. So you remember what you did at work a decade ago? Yeah. No? No matter how interesting it was, really, unless it's a peak experience when that day that the office caught on fire or something, you're probably not going to remember it. So,
but I reckon there's quite a lot that probably subconsciously will go in there that you don't know is going in, but it's going in.
Oh, right. I'm being programmed by my guests.
Yes.
Fucking subliminal.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a terrifying idea, especially given who I bring on the show. But no, yeah, people always talk about you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And I think the 2025 equivalent of that is you are the average of the 5 podcasts that you listen to the most. But as someone who does the show, it's not so much that there's 5 people you're speaking to, it's that there's one person who constantly changes that you speak to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So that whatever all of those guests have in common, whether they're similar sort of ideology, similar sort of talking cadence, similar sort of nationality, similar sort of inquisitiveness, whatever it is that they've got that's going on, you absorb it for sure. So yeah, maybe I am just like this odd aggregate of all the people I've spoken to over the last 7 years or something now. But there's way worse people to be than, like, I don't know, just some blend of a ton of smart people, way smarter than me that I've chatted to.
How do you go through the process of choosing who to have on? And I think more importantly, which is worth saying, is who you don't have on. I would imagine it gets to the point now where there's a lot of people who are reaching out, who are saying, hey, I would love to come on. Obviously, you would kind of have to run a little bit of a background check on them to see, first of all, if they're legit and whether or not it would make sense for you to platform them and kind of give them an audience to speak to.
Are they interesting? That's it. Like, the show was just built on me speaking to people that I was interested in about things I'm interested in and trying to just replicate. Anyone that tries to do a project of any kind that they're not passionate about is kind of doomed for failure. Eventually, they're going to run out of gas because there is someone out there who loves to do what you have to force yourself to do. And that person is going to outwork you because they're not going to need as much willpower. Even if you have a huge tank that you can tap into, they don't have to tap into it. And if this is in any creative endeavor, anything that you do for work, for a pursuit, if you have no positive sort of feedback from whatever it is that you're doing, you are on over a long enough timeline, you're chipping away at your willpower to do the thing. And that means that you're basically just running this trajectory at varying degrees of like steepness just into the ground.
But you haven't experienced that?
Nope. You know, I spoke to this guy telling you earlier on. I had an episode with Matt Ridley earlier on today, and his new book is about sexual selection, but it's using birds to explain how sexually selected traits, so things that don't enhance survival but do enhance like hotness, and he's talking about the lesser brown snipe grouse and stuff, and I'm like fucking enthralled. I'm listening to him talk about the difference between like fitness and hotness, and between survival selection and sexual selection. This thing called Fisherian runaway, where like how is a peacock's tail so big and it's so unwieldy and it's basically useless and it makes it easy to kill and harder to survive and all this stuff, but the women love it, like the pea hens absolutely love it. And I'm like, there's nothing else I want to do at 11 a.m. in the morning than talk to this guy in Durham about peacocks. So for me, it's fun. And, you know, it's the easiest hack because it makes something that looks from the outside like gritting your teeth and gripping very tightly to consistency just feel like what you want to do. And it's a pretty big hack.
What is probably one of the most intense weeks that you've had? In terms of work? Because I don't think people give you the credit for like the actual graft that is required.
Yeah, maybe, because I guess from the outside it seems like there's, I don't know, it's some huge engine that's pushing all of this forward, but it's not. It's 2 years ago, it was still me, my video guy, and a Mormon assistant in a Facebook Messenger chat. And that was it. I was doing all the guest booking. I was doing all the ad sales. I was doing all of the ad invoices. I was researching the guests. I was doing every piece of copy for every title, every thumbnail. I was writing the descriptions. We weren't using dynamic ad insertion, so I was recording 3 ads per week times 3 episodes. So 9 ads per week were being recorded fresh to be baked into the file. I was doing my own audio editing, my own audio mastering. I was doing the upload to Dean, the file management, the DIT.
A bit of a control freak, are you?
I just didn't have anybody else to do it. I'm not particularly good at recruiting, and I'm not particularly good at delegating. So you end up just eating more and more and more over time. I mean, fuck, dude, I've done 13 episodes in 5 days before. like and all of them being really hardcore, difficult episodes. We've done 5 episodes in 3 states over 3 days. You know, travel in between and lack of sleep. I did 4 episodes in 24 hours when I flew to Manchester on basically no sleep from the UK. Flew to Heathrow and then got a taxi to Manchester. But I don't mean to say this to flex, and to be honest, I don't really talk about it all that much because I think people come to you to be a professional, and I like to treat myself like a professional, even if podcasting is like a very unserious pursuit or whatever. You know, Taylor Swift's deep into her tour and is tired today, but she doesn't come out on stage and whine about being tired. You know, it's like, fucking deliver what you're here to deliver. And I like trying to show up and be a professional, even if stuff in my personal life's going sideways, if I'm tired, if I'm fatigued, if I feel unmotivated, if I feel elated or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to try and show up and do the best that I can do.
Do you have like a pre-podcast routine, or what do you do to optimize your performance mentally?
Sleep is a big one. You know, the difference between being slept well and not is like everybody understands what that feels like, right? To not have access to the same mental nimbleness they're supposed to. So that's probably the single biggest predictor. Like, here's a better way to put it. What would I do if I was going to try and ruin somebody's performance on a podcast? I'd have them be underslept, I'd have them be stressed about something, distracted, their mind's not in the room. I would over-caffeinate them, probably, because they're going to come in and be all jittery and they're not actually going to be able to think in the right way. Blood sugar would be low. Just that. I mean, if you can do that and perform well, talking to anybody, to giving a presentation, having a chat with a friend, like you're not in the room. So I just try and look after that and go for a walk, get some fresh air beforehand. Did that earlier on today, before the first episode. Did that before ours, and that's it. Like look, we're not high performance athletes here, but I do think that there's a lot of things that are really easy wins that you can get that kind of give you a leg up, especially if you're not that naturally talented at something. If you're not naturally talented at something, you need to assume that there's stuff that you have to do that someone who's more talented than you wouldn't have to do. So, right, okay, I'm going to compensate for the fact that I'm not as charismatic as Matthew McConaughey, or as funny as Tim Dillon, or as witty as Theo Von, or as like wide read as Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson or whatever, right? I'm going to do that by doing the things that they probably don't do because they've got more shit on their plate, which is to prepare more and to have systems in place that are focused on this. They can't have those systems because they've got like lots of businesses, or they're doing comedy, or they're doing commentary, or they're doing a live show, whatever. So those are areas of how you can like even the tables, I think, between you and someone who's like way more talented.
Yeah. Who are the people you've had on that you've been super excited about, or you've even got a little bit, I don't know if you still get this, but a little bit nervous beforehand?
It's been a while since I had someone on that made me nervous before I recorded. Peterson still gives me a little bit of it. Alain de Botton from the School of Life, I did him in November of last year, and he was just such a hero to me. I mean, you know, the episode did well. I think it was really meaningful to a lot of people, but it wasn't, you know, Matthew McConaughey is probably one of the biggest names I've ever had on. I was like just sat chilling before he arrived. I didn't feel any heart rate change at all. But I think it's because the reason that we get a little nervy around people isn't really because of how like big that, like you could sit down with the Sultan of Brunei or some shit and you say, you know, this guy is worth so much money and so many people know he is. It's like, who is he to you? He's nobody. But you could sit down with someone that's been a childhood hero that maybe only a few thousand people know about and be shitting yourself. So just trying to reframe it, I guess, at least for me, is this is the sort of thing, after a while, if you've done something for a very, very long time, what you realize is if you still have imposter syndrome, it's got nothing to do with your ability to deliver stuff to yourself, because you keep on delivering. If it's not 900 repetitions of something, when is it? When are you going to begin to believe in yourself? You know what I mean? If it wasn't 7 years of doing this at least once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week, when? And for the people who are chronically unconfident in sort of taking risks, they're unsure whether or not things are going to go well, a lot of the time, if they're doing new stuff, it feels justified. You think, well, I don't have that much evidence that I can do this thing. But after a while, you realize now you have a lot of evidence and you're still addicted to feeling like an imposter because it's a protection mechanism for you, because it means that if things don't go well, you have a get out of jail free card. Because you can say, oh, well, you know, it is only episode 20 or whatever. Oh, well, you know, I actually haven't done the dance recital that many. Oh, I haven't actually practiced that song all that much. It's relatively new. And then one of the advantages is you have this huge stack of evidence that suggests that you can do the thing. One of the disadvantages is that you've got nowhere to hide if it goes wrong. So it's a mixed bag.
Speaking of things going wrong, have you ever had an episode that is just not aged very well?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I've got 2, I would say.
Maybe you're more self-critical than me. What are those? Which ones?
Well, remember, the 4th person that came on was Tristan. And then straight after that, obviously they got locked up. So I was getting quite a lot of hate from that incident.
People, the most played video on your YouTube channel, huh?
Yeah, people going back to the Instagram posts and the YouTube videos saying like, oh, I can't believe you would platform a human trafficker, all this kind of thing.
Sorry, I wasn't gifted with fucking divination to be able to see what was going to, clairvoyant, and I can see what was going to happen in 3 weeks' time.
Exactly. And then there's someone, I won't say any names, who's currently in a Dubai jail cell.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's not that it hasn't aged well. It's that people that you speak to tend to be risk-taking, which makes them interesting guests. And those people that are risk taking sometimes end up in jail. So congratulations. Like fucking shock horror. Risk takers end up in fucking prison.
Yeah. So you haven't had many.
I imagine that in the 900 people, there must, I realized this before, there must be guests I've had on the show that have died. I just haven't realized, old dusty professors maybe from somewhere. I certainly have met people at conferences I've spoken at, academic conferences, a guy called John Tooby, who's this, grandfather of evolutionary psychology legend. And he came up and he said some really lovely things about the podcast. I'm like, fuck, like the guy's a legend. And he passed away last year. And I remember thinking, like, shit, like I met that guy.
Yeah.
And there'll be people who will have had cancer diagnoses, who will have become bankrupt, people that will have gone to jail. And there is this sense of like camaraderie. You brought this person on, you had a really intimate conversation with this person about something that they really care about, and it was part of your journey. It's 1/1000th of the thing that you care about a lot. And you do have this sort of sense of partnership with people in that way. But I recorded an episode with Tate. I didn't release it because it was during COVID and it would have got my channel nuked. And then by the time that COVID wasn't a problem and he was huge, it would have been a bit of a middle finger to him because he was being gregarious during the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And, I just felt a bit icky about releasing something where he was speculating about a fast moving news event. And I was just going to be like putting it out for the plain reason that it was going to get a lot of plays. And I was like, okay, I'll just keep it. I won't bother releasing it still now.
Yeah.
So that one, every so often a guest has a bad day. They're not in the right place. We made a wrong decision with a guest booking and somebody couldn't communicate their ideas quite as slickly as we would like. And, the other thing is, I'm being diplomatic here, but...
Yeah, what happens? You're like 10 minutes in, you're like, oh God.
That's awkward. It is, because I'm like...
I had one of those.
I know pretty quickly whether or not it's going to go out. It very rarely gets salvaged 15 minutes in if the first 15 minutes was bad.
So what do you do?
I just watch the clock countdown to an hour and whatever, and then sort of, right, thank you for coming, and blah, 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 and then go like, oh.
Yeah.
It feels bad because part of it is, it is exclusively my responsibility. I booked them on the show. I did the research. I looked at the guest. I thought or hoped that I could get them into the right place. It was my job to curate the questions more effectively, to pick the guest to fit the show. It's my fault. So I just take it on the chin and go, okay, that's another lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Maybe once every 3 months or so, a few times a year, that'll happen. And I guess if you're doing 150 a year of anything, you're going to get 150 gym sessions a year. You're going to have a couple of bad ones. So.
Well, yeah, you mentioned yesterday that you turned down some big names as well.
I turned down Trump, which was an interesting choice. That I didn't think, and I still think this was the right call. I don't think I had anything to contribute to the conversation with him. It was plainly a press tour, which is fine. I've done press tours for loads of people with books and movies. Interstellar's 10th anniversary, Matthew McConaughey's paperback of Greenlight, all this stuff. But I didn't know what I could contribute to the conversation sort of meaningfully with him.
Would it have just been a case of letting him waffle on? And
you're going to step in, say what you want. You can agree or disagree with Trump's politics. The guy's a phenomenal communicator, and he's a master of adversarial debate. I said to you yesterday, a lot of the time people have a problem with you not being as hardcore of a hammer when you have a conversation with somebody on a podcast. That is almost invariably people who don't like the person you're speaking to and wish that you had been the very hard, sharpened weapon that they wanted to be if they'd been able to sit down with them. So it's basically, you didn't slam them the way that I wanted you to slam them because I don't like them.
Yeah.
And I have this sense, well, if I invited you on my podcast, I'm kind of obliged to give you a good time, as opposed to like inviting you into my house and then saying, by the way, take your shoes off. There is shit everywhere. But like, enjoy the shitty walk home.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of obligated to give you a good time. And I don't think you get the best out of people if they're defensive. So allowing them to just speak, it seems to be a pretty good way to work out what someone thinks. Yeah, you need to sort of poke and prod and ask for clarification. But if you get somebody defensive, I'm not sure that they're thinking that clearly, even if they want to. And then on top of that, I'm just not that disagreeable. So if you're coming to me for the kind of hard-hitting fucking political backbite, Jeremy Paxman, Piers Morgan stuff, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
But if you want me to try and dig deep about somebody's motivations, about why they feel the way that they do, about what drives them, about the challenges they face and how they overcome that, and, to try and deconstruct the way that they perform so you get an insight into the way that they're built, like, I'll do that all day long. And I don't know, like, bring Trump on and get him to waffle on about the fucking border and all this stuff. It's like, maybe, but it's also, and he's an interesting guy. And I won't rule out that I wouldn't do it again in future, but I think I'd actually be more interested in speaking to him when he's out of office than when he's just in the run-up to a presidential election, because it's obvious what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I won't do it in the run-up to another election, but just it was a vibe. I just didn't feel right. And I was like, I'm going to say no. So I don't know how many people would have turned down Trump, but anyway.
Do you feel the pressure to have to share your opinion more often now because you're more of a public figure, you've got more of an audience?
I think anybody that expects me to have an interesting opinion is wildly overestimating what I have to contribute. Fuck, dude. I've made a career out of being the most stupid person in the room over and over again, and maybe by like osmosis, some interesting shit's trickled down. But for the most part, I'm interested in other people, and I've got some insights in some areas of expertise, like kind of expertise, but I know where my limits lie.
Yeah.
And if you want someone to explain how to fix the Donbass region, right, or like what's going to happen when they redraw lines in the Ukraine war, I can try and say look, here's a way to look at it. Most people, when asked the question, what do you think about why, should say, I don't have an opinion on that. Because you don't have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're cobbling together some sentence from like whim and half-remembered hearsay, and then claiming that that's the flag that you're going to plant in the ground and the hill that you're going to die on. You're like, you just made that up now. You don't have an opinion on this. And the opinion that you do have is actually you being puppeted by a bunch of other people's opinions. And that's fine, but just own it and be like, I don't actually know. But, like I heard this guy who seemed to know what he was talking about say this thing, as opposed to like gripping so tightly onto these beliefs that you didn't come up with, you don't understand. And I really try my best and fail all the time, obviously, because the desire to be like seen as an authority or to be seen as somebody that's got interesting shit to say, like that's a strong desire. Yeah. Everybody wants to feel like, oh, do you know that take that Chris Williamson had on the Donbass region? It was very insightful. It's like everybody wants to feel like they've got something to contribute, especially if it's a popular conversation. But for the most part, people's predictions don't come true. The opinions that people hold, even smart people, they have a very narrow band of expertise. It's like you're an expert in maybe like 3 things. And then when somebody comes along and asks, what should we do about the parts per million in global warming? It's like, just say you don't know, because you don't know. And that's fine. It's fine. Everybody has been convinced that they should have an opinion on everything. And I don't think that that's true. I think that you can normalize, make saying I don't have an opinion on that great again. How about that?
Yeah. If you had to say that you, or someone asked you if you were going to be a person of authority in one area, what would you credit that?
So, like, the mating side of evolutionary psychology, I'm pretty good on. Population collapse and sort of demographic trends at the moment, I'm pretty good on, which is pretty similar. Routines, habits of high performance, I'm not bad on. Some stuff to do with health and fitness, strength, nutrition, sleep, recovery, stuff like that, I'm also not bad on. And like the worst thing to be good at is talking about the thing you do, especially if the thing you do is talk about stuff. Like what I'm actually an expert on is podcasts, right? But that's, and again,
the art of conversation.
Well, I have to, I'm going to call it, let's get meta for a second. I very rarely talk about the process of doing a podcast because I get the sense that people don't need to see how the sausage is made. They just turn up to be interested in stuff. So it's cool to be able to talk to this with, someone who's a peer. But
yeah, I find it really interesting, but then it's the same thing. It's like, do people really care? Because how many other people...
Find out in the comments below.
Like how many other people are in a situation like us where they're speaking to people?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I always try and bring it back to, it doesn't matter what your pursuit is, whether you're doing a podcast or you've got a creative endeavor or you're starting to learn a musical instrument or you're changing careers or whatever. Because I think a lot of these principles are around consistency. It doesn't matter whether you're doing a podcast or you're starting a fucking sales job. you need to be consistent. You need to learn the skills, learn the basics, and then look at things. Okay, this is a pattern I've learned. Why is that there? Maybe I can get rid of it. Maybe I can break that pattern. Maybe that gives me a competitive. Oh, fuck, I broke something that's kind of fundamental. Let's go back to it.
Yeah.
All of those things I think are universal. And people speak about the vehicle that they learned through. So UFC fighter will talk about fighting, right? A comedian will talk about comedy. Unfortunately, podcaster will talk about the process of talking. But look, maybe it's insightful to people. And I mean, it certainly is to young, upcoming creators, writers, YouTubers, stuff like that. But yeah, I'm always sort of cautious of trying to broaden out the lessons to make them appeal to a wider range of people.
With everything that you know regarding productivity and trying to perform at your best, is there anything that you still struggle with?
All the time. I'm getting worse at stuff, dude. I'm actively getting worse at stuff. Like my ability to be distracted at the moment is so high because I'm having to context switch all the time. I'm having to move between
from task to task.
Yeah. Slack, email, call. Fuck, I need to lock in and get this research done for this guest. Phone call comes in. Oh shit, I've got a meeting. I've got to do this thing. So I'm trying to strip that back. So single task, monotasking, I guess, is something that I'm struggling with. And it's one of the first things that you learn in productivity.
Yeah.
Stop trying to do 3 things at once. You literally can't think about 2 things at once. You can task switch very quickly, but that's not the same as parallel processing. You cannot think 2 thoughts at once. It's impossible, but you can just move really quickly between 2. And when you do, there is a price you pay in your productivity for the context switching.
Yeah.
Typically, it takes about 20 minutes to get back into whatever it was you were doing before when you get into something new. So if you've got this looming specter of unanswered emails or of calls that you've got that are coming up. I've
noticed that with writing. Like whenever I try and write, it takes me a decent amount of time to get into the zone where I can, I'm actually writing
I'm
something.
running here.
And then the moment something will distract me, I'm out of it. It takes me another 15 minutes or so to get back into
It's rough, yeah. I mean, training yourself to just do one thing at a time is super important. And unfortunately, as you get more popular, yeah, of course, there's more things to come and distract you.
Wow.
So I have this idea called the curse of competence, which is when you're good at lots of things and if the world gives you a lot of opportunities, it's really hard to say no because you can probably make this thing work.
Yeah.
And how many people are going to give you sympathy for this champagne problem? Oh, poor person that seems to be talented at a couple of things and also has the opportunity to do them. No one's going to come and give you sympathy for that. Go fuck yourself. Yeah. But when your options for how you can move forward in the world are constrained by reality because you don't maybe have quite so many directions that you could go in some ways that sucks because you're not choosing. But in some ways that's great because you just follow the thing that you're really good at. If you're good at a bunch of different things, you've got this paradox of choice that you need to make in your mind. And that's rough. It's not the same kind of rough as being in poverty, but it's a particular kind of existential pain that people have to deal with. So sleep is something I have dialed in. That's good. You can go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. I'm pretty good at doing that. Time blocking and calendar management, I've got pretty good at. Here's a good one, especially if people that are getting a little bit more busy. Just put all of your calls on one day if you can, if that's the sort of way that you can schedule your week. So Wednesday for me is the day that I book as many calls as I can, and I try and not have calls on any other days. Now, that's always impossible.
Yeah.
But for the most part, my Wednesday's stacked back to back with calls, but I've got no creative work to do.
These are business-related calls.
Copywriting stuff for the show, guest booking calls, making sure that things are organized, first touches with partners or check-ins with sponsors or whatever it might be. I get to the end of the day and I go, oh my God, that was a lot of stuff. But there was no sense that I should be doing something else.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest pains that you have, everybody knows this, you've got a really important task you should be doing and some urgent thing comes in that requires your attention. And you're trying to do the urgent thing whilst thinking about the important thing. And it's like this productivity schizophrenia that's ripping your brain in half.
Yeah.
You're wishing you were over there, feeling guilty about being over there, but knowing you've got to do this thing as well and feeling the tension between the two. It's like, right, okay, just try and block entire days if you can. It's just going to be a day of creative work. It's going to be a day of admin. It's going to be a day of emails. It's going to be a day of calls. That to me is...
and then if you don't even do that thing you were supposed to do, you'll probably have a shitty sleep because you got subconsciously...
Yeah, of course.
I've had that so many times. And I've heard you speak about it a few times where, there's that thing that you should be doing, but you're just coming up with any excuse or finding any other task to do. So
you will happily clean the inside of the cupboards in your kitchen that you don't use. You literally don't use it. It's got like the nice glassware in that nobody ever touches. And you will, that glassware is going to get dusty. I really should. Dude, send that fucking invoice that's overdue. Like, you need to go and do that. I must vacuum the upstairs attic. It's like, okay, dude. Like,
but that's like, things like that can have a major impact on your overall like mental health and how happy you are. Like, I've noticed that when I get unhappy or annoyed, it's because I'm annoyed at myself for not doing that thing that I know I'm supposed to do.
Oh, of course.
And then when I've done it, like, I'm like, holy shit, I did it. And then you're like, okay, let's do the next thing.
Satisfaction. Yeah. It's a sense of guilt that you have around not doing the thing that you knew that you were supposed to do is very, very strong.
Do you, I mean, every now and then I know you go back to the UK, but do you miss it at all?
I miss my friends, miss mum and dad. But to be honest, there's decreasingly things that I miss about the UK. It's like a very, very small number of things that, and I go back and I don't know. It's so cliche as well to move away from home and start like chirping away at how shit home is. And there is a sense of just familiarity, right? That something that's new and novel and exotic is always going to be cooler than the thing that you already know. But it does seem a little, do you know anyone that's fired up about the UK? Anyone that goes, you know what it is? I really love the UK. Like, Britain's really great. It's the weather and the culture and the people and the taxes and the government and the media. It's like, I don't know anyone who's ever said that, ever.
I know a few people, I follow a few people who they're trying their best, like, to say how much they love London or wherever they might be, but they're posting about it less frequently.
Well, also, let's make no mistake, London is not the UK.
Yeah.
The UK is everywhere outside of London.
Yeah.
Right? London is a cosmopolitan city that could be anywhere on the planet. It could be Shanghai or Paris or fucking New York or anywhere. Apart from the weather, and even the weather in London is kind of unrepresentative for most of the rest of the UK because it's so far south.
It's always 5 degrees warmer than Newcastle or Leeds.
Well, dude, yeah, the UK is Carlisle and Scunthorpe and Southampton, right? That's the UK. It's normal working class towns outside of the fucking M25. And, the UK's got, I can't remember, I don't know what it is, like the 6th biggest economy or something in the world. It's like quite high up, but that's not the UK. London has the 6th biggest economy in the world, and the UK is a very poor country attached to a very rich city. That's how it works. So for all that it might from the outside, and even from the inside, if you live in London, feel like everything's flourishing and like, I don't really see where things are going wrong. It's like, all right, bro, go to fucking Wakefield. Have a walk around Wakefield and tell me how well things are going.
Yeah. It's not great. From the people that you've spoken to and what you've seen, is there any hope for the UK?
Dude, I'm very cautious about it's a lost state, it's a failed empire. I don't know. I again, normalize saying I don't know. I can try and spitball an opinion, which is, I think you need a bottom-up cultural change that helps people who are builders and agentic and different and unique thinkers to feel welcome there. Why is it that two largely like normal guys, relatively unremarkable people, both left to go and do this thing that you can do from anywhere on the planet? Like, yeah, lifestyle, obviously, and quality of life and weather and taxes and stuff, like both of which are true. But why did we leave the UK? I think because if you're going to do something which is non-typical, the UK is not a particularly welcoming place for that. They don't like people straying from the typical path. And in the US, and maybe in Dubai as well, if you try and do something different in the right environment, you end up feeling supported because people are like, yeah, go and get your dreams, man. That's interesting. You're very enthusiastic. Doing that in the UK, you just called gay. You know what I mean?
You'll get hated on.
Yeah. Stop being such a puff. That's weird.
Yeah.
Like, that just never spoke to me. It never made me feel like I was being supported in that way.
Yeah. How is Chris the businessman doing now? See, this is doing pretty well.
Neutonic's rattling along. Thank you.
What were the numbers you pulled in last year?
I'm not going to report that publicly, but it went well. I mean, I haven't taken a penny from it. All I've done, get that in you, go on. All I've done in this business is continue to put more money into fund stock. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're going to get 10% better at speaking now that you play. You should have had it before. It's good. I love building brands. I love coming up with copy. It's what I did in my last job as a club promoter. Like, from the outside, professional party boy. From the inside, very, very careful at crafting flyer design and event description and club night name and brand identity and stuff like that. And I really love it. And I love the process of going through doing this and coming up with the I and, like productivity drink instead of energy drink.
Yeah.
And then Amazon made a new category on Amazon of productivity drinks just because of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we were ranked number one in a category of one that we made. That's all algo driven, right? No, it wasn't someone on the back end going, oh my God, productivity drink. This is the new, but it was cool. And,
what surprised you about going into the beverage industry?
Fucking expensive and hard and like really competitive.
Yeah.
And you need a ton of money. And it's actually probably one of the worst CPG categories you could go into. Ask anyone that's good at CPG, consumer packaged goods, and they'll say, well, what you don't want it to be is low margin and heavy to ship. And that's exactly what this is. So we really decided to play on hard mode, but I didn't think, and I still don't think, that there is a product that delivers this level of effectiveness, that's as evidence-based, research-backed, a better for you energy drink that actually works and doesn't take your face off and doesn't ruin your sleep, and you're not worried about taking for a long amount of time, and actually makes you get better as you take it more consistently. So, and I wanted it, and it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
With Modern Wisdom, the podcast, there was a corner of content that I didn't think was being serviced. I wanted to learn about human nature, why we are the way that we are, how to live a good life. I wanted to ask people questions about how they dealt with like difficult times in their lives and darkness and hope and how humans work. I wanted to really go deep into psychology, philosophy, and history. I just didn't think that was like quite being serviced the way that I wanted to. And it's got a lot of Rogan in it. It's got a bit of Sam Harrison. It's got a lot of the School of Life. It's got a bit of Peterson in it. A lot of Tim Ferriss in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't. None of those guys individually were doing what I wanted. The thing that I wanted didn't exist, so I made it as a podcast, and the product that I wanted didn't exist as Neutonic, so we built it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it, and we're going to keep doing it.
So the goal now is to try and get it in the stores.
We'll move into retail, and as any of my fellow CPG business owners out there know, the pivot from direct to consumer online to trying to put something into stores is largely just a stock problem. And the stock problem is just a money problem, apart from a production problem. Yeah. So you need a lot of cash, a ton of cash. And you can bootstrap it, right? By just put an order in, sell it. You've got your profit over the top, which means your next order can be what you spent last time plus the profit. Okay, so there we step that up, that ladder, sell, go again, sell, go again, sell. But the curve is really, really slow unless your margins are fucking huge. And as we've already identified, they're not with ready to drinks.
Yeah.
So we're doing a raise. We're going to look for an influx of cash. That cash will be a credit facility that we can use, that we can dump. And then we'll begin to move into retail, probably in the UK first, just that you can get better penetration because the country's so much smaller. So maybe we end up in Co-op or WH Smith's or Sainsbury's or Safeway or M&S or fucking Asda. I don't know.
Safeway.
Yeah.
That's still around.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure I'll be told in the comments.
Yeah, but like if you can crack America, then you've pretty much done it.
Well, I mean, if you can crack America, you need an unlimited amount of money. There's like 7,000 targets or something in America. So the amount of cash that you need to be able to spin that up, I mean, it's a significant amount for probably Dr. Pepper. Their 7-Eleven deal will make it, that influx, if it was dropped, would make an impact on their balance sheet. And that's fucking Keurig Dr. Pepper, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
Because you mentioned before, it's so competitive. There'll be people who will not wanting to see you win.
That's true. But I think you have a real advantage as an underdog, especially if you're an underdog who looks like they don't know what they're doing, because people will discount what you can do. And if you are being a bit of a stealth fighter in that way, having a skill set that people can't immediately understand. Like James Smith, for instance, unbelievably good at just telling people the fact when it comes to health and fitness. It doesn't matter how much money C4 spend on marketing. They don't have James. And James is a one-of-one creator. So that's like a completely non-fungible human that you cannot replicate. Okay, that's a huge competitive advantage. We spend a lot of time on branding. I did, 200 nightclub flyers, 1,000 nightclub event descriptions throughout my career in nightlife. Like, that's a lot of writing copy. So when it comes to designing brand, that's something I reckon I can hang with the big boys. But from the outside, you might not look at me and go, oh my God, yeah, he's like all right at doing brand.
Yeah.
So again, the way that I would port this across is advice that's like widely applicable. Everybody has a history or a heritage of shit that they've done in their life that has given them a ton of experience that might not immediately be obvious of how it is useful in other areas.
Uh-huh.
But if you think just a little bit, you did this one thing, right? Like you helped your mum and dad run their corner shop on a weekend for all of your childhood until you moved to university at 18. But you really understand operations and logistics and inventory management. Like you really understand it.
Uh-huh.
Huge competitive advantage. And you just straight up can't get taught that. Or if you do, it's basically someone else who has to go and do what you did. So it's like, okay, as an adult now, for 18 years, you're going to have to go and do this thing. And the way that you see the world is very much shaped by those experiences. So,
quick interruption, guys. Have you noticed how a lot of the guests that I've been speaking to on this podcast have taken the leap and built something meaningful for themselves? They didn't just think about it or make excuses. They took a risk and they made it happen. I don't want to hear about why you can't do it and why your situation is different. It's exactly why I have created the digital playbook for you. This is a step-by-step guide to you building your online presence, your social media following, and ultimately monetizing that following so you can live a life of freedom, both financially and geographically.
Well, I guess like the good thing now in your situation is because of the podcast, because of the network you've built, you've now got a lot of friends who are pretty switched on in the business world.
Mm-hmm.
So you could ask them for a little bit of advice, and I'm sure they've pointed you in the right direction.
I mean, look, I'm not like flexing my phone book, but if I've got a legal issue when it comes to deal terms we're looking at for Neutonic, if we're part of a raise, I can just like ring
Hey,
Alex Hormozy, like a guy who regularly does deals 100 times bigger than the one that we're looking at. I'm like, hey dude, like this blocking rights thing, or there's an IPCO-OPCO problem when it comes to board seats. Like, can you just tell me? It's like, oh, we had that problem with blah, 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 blah before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm struggling to sleep. I can text Dr. Matthew Walker and be like, yo, I keep waking up during the night. What should I do? So that bit's cool. Like that's,
yeah.
You don't want to be this like weird, sceney sycophant guy, but it's never not cool getting a Merry Christmas text from Jordan Peterson. Like it's going to be, or like, whatever. It's just fucking, it's nice. And then when the shit really hits the fan, if you've got a real problem, like you can text somebody who's the best in the world, or someone who knows the person that's the best in the world. If you go do, like I got mold poisoning last year from the house that I was living in. So I text Huberman. I'm like, yo, what do I do? And here's a list of like the 5 best people on the planet at mycotoxin detox. Like, cheers. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
How the hell do you know if you got mold poisoning?
You take blood tests, but as with everything, the effect of most like negative impacts on your physiology are the same things. It'll be mood dysregulation, cognitive impairment, and fatigue. Like those are 3 things that just regularly happen when your immune system is cranking, trying to fight whatever this is. So a lot of the time you'll feel tired and a bit moody and your brain won't work so well. But that covers a huge range of sins, right? It could be anything. Could just be tired. But yeah, mold poisoning is because America builds their buildings out of timber. So it gets wet and hot and wet and hot while it's still just the structure, and that bakes organic wet material into the building. And it means that when it gets wet and hot again, it seeps out and lots of people get molded.
I think that's a bit of an issue in Dubai as well, especially in the summer when there's basically no windows are open, and you're breathing in this air-conditioned air. If you don't have clean air conditioning ducts, like that can really mess you up.
Condensation will suck you.
So that needs to be checked frequently.
I would say so. I mean, you can act as a weather vane for this. It's like, are you feeling shitty? But you don't want to wait until you feel shitty, because if you've waited until then, it's a big problem. A piece of advice for anyone that does find out that they've got mold in their house, you can just do a Total Tox is a great test that is like very, very big. I don't know if it's available outside of the US, but just search Total Tox. It's not super cheap, but it's very comprehensive. That'll tell you where your mycotoxins and heavy metals and BPAs and all that shit are at. And then you need to get your house tested. And if it comes back as this has got a good bit of mold in it, you just need to leave. You can't remediate. I mean, you can remediate it, but it's going to take so long to do. Just leave. Your landlord has to let you out of that contract. You say, you didn't maintain the property as it should have been. I'm fucking leaving. Like yesterday, I'm leaving yesterday. So demand that your rent gets ceased. I lived in a hotel for 3 months last year in Austin. They kept all of
because of that?
Yeah. So I was living in a hotel that's a 10-minute, it's where I told you should have stayed when you were here, the Colton House. Lived in a hotel for 3 months in Austin, walked to my house to collect possessions. So I didn't have my entire world in the hotel room. And then would go and work back at the hotel again. So yeah, it was wild, dude. In a rough year.
God, do you ever think about getting older? Coming to terms with aging?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I've thought about this a lot. I don't think that there is a very good archetypal conversation around male aging. So much of it, and quite rightly so, is focused on women aging, because a lot of their typically perceived value to the world, rightly or wrongly, is attached to their youth and their beauty, because that's tied to fertility. And women feel uncomfortable as they age, and that sucks. But I think that captures a lot of the conversation around it. And it means, well, guys age too. And I don't think we really talk about that. And, me and you are at the age. It's, at least for me, 34, I think, was the first time when I actually started to think, oh, I'm getting a bit older. That's gray hair. Because all you're doing basically from 18, 19, when you were made of rubber and magic, until your mid-30s, is just linearly getting better.
Yeah.
Everything gets easier. You're more confident. Your health is improving. Your body's better. You feel more resilient to challenges. And then something happens. It's like being at the top of a roller coaster, going up and up and up. And then you go and you're sort of floating in the air.
Yeah.
Hang on, this isn't getting, and then it starts to go down. You go, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Because I experienced that in the past year or so. And, you're
about to be 35, right?
I'll be 35 this year. And it flies by. You felt like yesterday I was 29, 30, and then bam, it'll be 35. And you kind of feel, when you are in I don't even know when the peak is, but when you're kind of up there, you just think it'll last forever.
Indestructible. Yeah. I mean, how humbling, dude.
Yeah.
How very humbling to realize that you're mortal just like the rest of us.
Yeah. But I think as a guy, if you do look after yourself, you can kind of extend that and continue to really make the most of feeling good and looking good for a much longer period of time.
Agreed. Yeah. But, fucking father time is going to come for us all.
Yeah.
Eventually. And, I don't know.
Do you get that question a lot when people because I know I get it. They're like, when are you going to settle down?
Oh, the settling down. I don't know. I think maybe people look at you and assume that you're a Lothario, you're spraying it about more than I am. So maybe people are sort of worried. They think it's a novel question, which is hey, when are you going to stop, just fucking running through half of Dubai, dude? And I am not convinced I give off the same Chad energy anymore. I detox myself from that from my 20s. And
yeah, you got that out of your system pretty early.
I was a fucking early adopter of that.
Why did you stop?
I kind of wanted to grow up a bit.
Yeah.
I'd been in relationships where I just hadn't been the sort of boyfriend I wanted to be in the past. I wasn't fucking abusive or anything, but I just wasn't, I didn't do anything bad, but I didn't do anything great.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one relationship in particular where I look back on it and I really thought it didn't make me proud of myself, and that affected my self-confidence in a way that other stuff hadn't.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, you can fail at building a business, or you can, fall short trying a new project, or you can, not be as disciplined in the gym as you might like, whatever. And you go, well, that doesn't really speak to my sense of self in the same way as like not being a good partner.
Yeah.
Presuming that you want to be a good partner at some point. It's like, okay, well, at what point are you going to stop fucking about and actually start to treat the person that you're with well?
Yeah.
Like, not just acceptably, right? But actually really trying to be a good partner. And I sort of made a commitment to myself. I took a bit of time to assess where I'd gone wrong. And I made a commitment to myself. I was like, you're going to try and be a really good partner to the person that you're with.
Imagine if you're the guy that makes women just hate men because you were just a fucking piece of shit.
Not good. That makes me feel, the idea that you can be part of someone's damaged past or whatever, that you're a lesson, not a blessing or something, is really, really uncomfortable to me. I'm not saying that you need to make every partner that you ever end up with wistful, like you just can't believe that they ever lost you or whatever. But you do want to be your best self, I think, in that. And the only reason that look, people have got lots of different priorities. And earlier on in your life, you very well may not actually be that fussed about being a good partner, but you don't want to be on your own. So you end up in a relationship with somebody, but they're not your number one or number two or number three priority. They're quite far down the list. Okay, I get that. But presumably at some point you actually need to grow up to do that. If you want to have a family at some point, you actually need to train yourself into how to be a good partner.
Yeah.
And
which can be probably more difficult if you spent more time single and just fucking around.
Because you've never had to compromise.
Yeah, you can't just completely shift.
No, because you need to learn to prioritize somebody else. You
Yeah.
need to learn to put other people first. And that's hard. It's really tough to learn what it's like to not just care about yourself. So I heard this sentence the other day, sort of describing this pivot in time as one day you just get sick of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of describes you've lived for yourself for a really long time, and hooray for you, you've achieved maybe some of the things or lots of or all of the things that you wanted. But there's nothing, you know what this is like? There's nothing sadder than seeing the dad of a young family still trying to get all of their validation from the world outside. They feel like they've never been recognized for their genius, or like they're unrequited in whatever industry they're in. And they want these people who don't know them to respect them. Meanwhile, there's literally humans inside of your house that think you're an actual superhero.
Yeah.
Like the bedroom next to you has 2 kids in that genuinely think that you're like a magician or something. And you're still chasing the...
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Like, there's some guys' Instagram profiles, things they're posting, and then I find out they've got kids at home, and I'm like, why are you behaving like this? Like,
I mean, look, the common criticism, 2 guys that aren't married and don't have kids talking about what it's like.
Oh, yeah,
kids, right? Like, okay, fucking, I get it, but and maybe we'll eat our words. Maybe we have kids and nothing slows down and nothing changes, but I think... I get the sense that's not the sort of dad that I want to be.
Yeah.
And fuck, dads have got to work. They've got to grind and do the things. But this isn't what we're talking about. We're not criticizing dads that work hard and don't have that much time to spend with their kids. We're talking about dads who still are playing the game, the external validation game from industry or friends or social circles, that like social climber hierarchy thing that you do in your 20s, in your 40s and in your 50s, and they haven't let go of it. And they never actually took on the identity of being husband or dad or, fucking son, like caring for, all of this stuff. And again, I'm sure I'm going to look back and go, fuck, like how simple you thought it would be. But
yeah, because I always think about this, like how does your life change? How would all of this change for you? Like trying to crank out the 3 a week if you've got a partner who you've been fully dedicated to, then you got like little ones running around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to soundproof the studio a lot more. Kids banging shit outside, but I don't know. I feel like that's a good challenge, and also, what you want to try and do, I think, is align life where you're at with your sort of sense of self, in that you're ready for it, right? You want kind of life to happen when you're ready. And a lot of people say you're never ready to have kids. It just sort of happens. So fair enough.
Yeah.
But then you also want it to be that operationally, right? The nuts and bolts of your life, you're ready to do it too. So maybe that means financially, you've got a little bit of cash in the bank, or maybe that means if you work for a company or you've got a business, that the company you work for has really great paternity leave, or the business that you run, you've actually managed to get an operations manager in so that you're not in the weeds every single day. Yeah. That, to me, seems like, I'm actually structurally ready, not just existentially ready, not relationally ready.
Uh-huh.
I've actually got some foundations here that are going to help me be the sort of person I want to be, whether it's husband or carer for parents or father or contributor to society outside of your work or whatever it is. You want those things to kind of come together as best you can.
Would you still keep that side of your life private? Because I know you, with relationships, you are very good at keeping that side of your life private, and rightly so, in my opinion. Do you think you'd do the same thing when you start a family?
I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Again, fucking learning to say I don't know more. Yeah. It's like there's two things, I think. One is I want to have a family I'm proud of, and I want to be able to talk about it publicly because that's fun and exciting, and presumably my family's going to be a big part of my life. So I want to talk about it
and help other people who are struggling to.
In some regard, I think I could. But so the point is, with that, I think I can do that pseudonymously. I think I don't need to inject myself into it to be able to take some of the learnings from having a family and it not be about me. There's a bit where I kind of want to talk about what my kids did, what my wife did, what we went. That is a good source of learning, and it's going to be interesting to talk about. It's also like cathartic and good for reflecting on it yourself. But also, there's weird people on the internet, and I think once you kind of reveal that digital modesty, once you kind of like take the coat off, and it's like, oh, this is my underwear that I've got on underneath. It's kind of difficult to reverse that in some ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll wait and see.
Speaking of relationships, how do you know when you should end one?
Oh God, you are asking the wrong guy.
No, but I ask because I know you've gone through a situation recently. I've also gone through a situation recently. I think there's a lot of people out there who are currently in relationships and they really shouldn't be in them, but they're in them because they're either afraid of being alone or they just don't know that there is actually somebody better suited to them out in the world.
Look, it's a good question. When should you end a relationship? Because I think a lot of people have a sense of obligation to their partner, even if there's no kids, even if they've not been together that long. One of the vicious things about the human mating system is that when you start to fall in love with somebody, your mind literally cuts off your ability to see other viable mates. So other potential partners aren't that attractive to you. So, and that's adaptive, right? If every time that you were falling in love and about to maybe make a baby, you were still just as eyes wide open scanning the environment for other hot women or other hot guys, that wouldn't be very good for pair bonding, so that you're then staying together so that you have the kid and it survives, right? So one lesson is be careful who you let yourself fall in love with. Yeah,
but that's easier said than done, isn't it?
Of course it is, and it's not something you can do after the fact. But, I'm going to take you through the timeline. Be careful who you let yourself fall in love with, because...
Would that be a case of maybe seeing some red flags beforehand?
Exactly, because if you have rose-colored glasses on, which is what being in love is like, red flags don't look red, right? You've got this hormonal fugue state that's just dropped over you, and you're like in this fever dream, completely besotted with this person. You can no longer see their flaws, the really, really toxic flaws potentially, or the ones that spell disaster for this relationship long term. You can't see them with the same rationality. So what you need to do is kind of consider from 1 to 2 months in to 9 months in of this relationship, or maybe a little longer, like 18 months in, I'm going to kind of be an insane person for that period. So I'm going to borrow from now's rationality so that I don't get into that with a person that I shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So I think be highly scrutinous sort of early on, because you just can't do it when you get in.
I think it's much harder for younger people as well. Like as a young man,
perspective.
like the advantage you have when you're older is experience. And you've, like, I would say quite now, I'm very good at seeing those red flags early on, and then just thinking, yeah, be careful, Mike.
Yeah. So how do you know when you should end a relationship? Well, I think first off, if you're asking yourself that question, that's the first indicator. You know, I don't think if you wake up every day and you think, should I be in this relationship? That should give you some pause. Right? Why is it that your needs aren't being met, or that you're not being reassured in the way that you need to, so that you actually feel like that's not a question that's on the back of your mind?
Yeah.
Like that's a first place to go. I think people feel a degree of obligation, fear, guilt. You know, lots of people are worried about leaving relationships because they don't actually expect that much from life. Maybe they didn't have a fantastic example of love at home. Maybe they didn't have particularly loving parents. Maybe they didn't see sort of romance. Maybe they were from a broken home or whatever. And their expectation for what you should get in a relationship is actually really low.
Yeah.
So they are unusually used to a joyless existence. Like they're able to survive on like a very meager diet of love and reassurance from a partner. And that in many ways you go, oh, that's what a fantastic skill that you can have in business, because you can continue to grind away at this thing that doesn't care about you until you make it a success. Yeah. But no one's going to congratulate you on your deathbed for suffering in silence through a relationship you should have never been in. Right? Marcel Proust says, to think that I have wasted my life, that I have spent my best years on a woman who wasn't even my type, who I didn't even love, and who I gave my greatest love to a woman who wasn't even my type. And his point there is that you don't always make the right decisions, and you can become committed to somebody who, in retrospect, you realize wasn't right for you. But if you're used to not having that much love or contentment or joy in your life, like you can end up being
if you
satisfied with something that's unsatisfactory.
Yeah. Or you feel as though you don't deserve better.
Of course. Yeah. So a lot of people fear change, and the decision should be not between this and what. Everybody thinks it's the choice is between this and worse when it comes to breaking up. It's like, it's going to get worse. That person is going to move on, and they're not going to care, and it's going to feel painful to know that they're going to sleep with somebody else. And oh my God, it makes me feel sick. It's like, okay, what if the choice wasn't between this and worse? What if the choice was between this and better? Like, I think that you need to have this faith in yourself that you are the kind of person who can deal with change well. Like, just think about that as a framing.
Yeah.
I am the sort of person who can handle change well. Well, that makes me feel a bit more confident about moving forward with this thing. Maybe change is actually going to be a good thing for me. And, you know, if nothing else, ask yourself the question, how many hours a week are you spending debating whether this is or is not the right relationship? And just look at those hours and realize you'll get those hours back.
Yeah.
Just those hours, right? Forget if you're arguing all of the time, or if you're worried about them, or if you've got, you know, whatever that's going on. Those hours you'll get back. How much of an improvement in quality of life would that be? Probably quite a lot. But you're basically a person on drugs when you're in love.
Yeah.
And you can't.
That's why I like it, and I'm scared of it at the same time.
That's why I say be careful who you let yourself fall in love with. Because once you're in it, you are in it. And
would you rather be in a relationship where you love them more or they love you more?
I think, look, that push and pull, pursuer, distancer dynamic, I think is very juvenile. And I noticed it a lot in my 20s, and I have tried to never have it again in relationships. I don't think it's inevitable. I think that people who say in a relationship there's always one person who loves the other one more, I think that's cope by people who haven't been able to get into relationships where they find someone who's mature or that they're not mature themselves. I think it's just a total fucking cope. Like, you're telling me that it's inevitable that your partner can't love you the way that you love them, assuming that you're the pursuer and they're the distancer. Or if you're the distancer, so okay, so you're telling me that you're incapable of loving your partner the way that they love you? Like, literally leave now and allow them to be with somebody who can love them the way that they do. And given the choice between the two, it's always better to be the person that's being pursued than the one that's doing the pursuing. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Because all of the anxious activation that you have, all of the worry, all of the concern, all of the, you don't, it's painful, but I do not think it's gold standard. There's a meme apparently that goes around on TikTok that says, in a relationship, the guy always needs to like the girl more than the girl likes the guy. That just sounds like the biggest fucking gaslighting psyop from women ever to try and, it's like, either you aim for a relationship to be 100-100, as in that's how much attention that we give to each other, everything, or you're just in a relationship with the wrong person. And you get into a relationship with somebody who can give 50 and you're the sort of person who can give 100. Okay, let them go and be with someone who gives them 50. That'll be nice for them. That'll be good balance. And you can go and find someone who gives you 100 because that is what you deserve. And in most relationships, I think, it's not like you get into a relationship with someone who isn't as prepared to give you what it is that you want and you drop down to their level. You just end up like resenting them and feeling bitter about the fact that they don't give you what you give them. And you just continue to cycle through until you finally find someone that's able to meet you at your level.
Are you still in the process of writing something?
Book?
Yeah.
Kind of. That's been on the back burner. If you've got a ton of health problems, you kind of need to focus on those first. Yeah. So as I've been detoxing from mold and gut stuff and America trying to kill me, that's been...
I noticed that today, or the past few days. I mean, I've not been in America since 2019. And so far, I've just been like going around trying to find somewhere healthy to eat. There's not a lot of options.
Well, there are options. You just need to work hard, unfortunately. And Austin's better than most places. So you'd think that Austin's tough, or Texas generally. Get to fucking Alabama and see how you get on.
Yeah. There's, I think one of the biggest problems is just that there's no like quick things that you can get access to.
Yeah, I mean, you're stuck with stuff like Sweet Green, Flower Child. I mean, like in a real pinch, you might find a Chick-fil-A on a...
Yeah, we were there today.
Chick-fil-A is great.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is good, dude. It's elite.
What's your thoughts on marriage? Think you'll do it?
I should fucking hope so. Yeah. I mean, I haven't been through the heartache and dry runs and dress rehearsals of all of these previous relationships to not then make it happen properly. And I fully intend on getting married.
Who is somebody you really want to speak to and get on the podcast? Do you feel that at this point now you're at a point where you can reach out to people and they're pretty much willing to come on, or is it still...
I've still got a lot of work to do to get to that stage. I mean, Rogan, maybe Dax Shepard, Theo Vaughn, probably Lex. Fuck. Like maybe Mel Robbins or somebody like that. Like outside of that group, probably Travis Kelce. Outside of that group of people, there's no one that has a like Uno reverse card, unlimited guest booking, you say it and they'll be there tomorrow type power. Very few people. Like everybody at the level that I'm at still has to work to get their guests.
Yeah.
Goggins was 9 months of flirtation for me to get him on. McConaughey was, a couple of different favors from different people. Tony Robbins was like maybe 18 months of flirting around and then doing a couple of favors and then, you get the right person at the right time. Yeah. And that gets easier as the show gets bigger. But
so the art is basically to not give up and to not be afraid of rejection.
Yeah, I mean, a DM costs nothing. You can always just fire stuff off, asking people. Also, it is easier the bigger that you get because people have maybe seen you before.
Mhm.
They know the show. So turns out Mark Zuckerberg's a fan of the show, right? So when we reached out to him, try and get him on, it's like, oh, Mark's actually a fan. I'm like, well, fuck, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
And it makes it infinitely easier. But a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, but some of the time, people have shows or YouTube channels where the people that they need to collaborate with are not the sort of people that watch.
Yeah.
So, if you have, let's say, a fitness YouTube, but it's for really young dudes, but the people that you collaborate with, like Christian Guzman and that Bratislava chick that you do or whatever, like, you don't get to accumulate the competitive advantage of people. Everybody has YouTube. So when they're bored and their plane's been delayed, even their private jet, Mark Zuckerberg's private jet's been delayed, I bet he gets his phone out and looks at YouTube.
Yep.
And if you can land on his algo and you make him a fan, if you need something from Mark Zuckerberg, it's probably going to be at least a couple of % easier to get it from him. So, what you should try and do, a good competitive advantage is make the show that you want to make or produce the content that you want to produce, but also think about trying to produce the sort of content that the people that you want to collaborate with would also consume, because you end up with a feedback loop. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, Naval, I still need to bring on the show. I would love to get him on at some point. Rogan is still on the Mount Rushmore and he said he'll come on, but I need to
That will be, yeah.
pick the time very carefully.
Yeah, fucking hell. Okay, so you've been on his twice.
Yep, I'm going on. When's this going out?
No idea. But yeah, you'll probably,
I'll have been
knowing
back.
the way he churns them out.
I'll have been back on a third time by the time this goes out. Yeah. So 2 weeks today, actually.
And we spoke about this yesterday, but the whole experience of actually going on his show, what was that like?
Maybe it's different for other people that just sort of boundless chill, but it can be a little nerve-wracking in the build-up to going on, because
do you feel that you have the need to perform and deliver, and that there's at this stage expectations?
Well, you don't want to mess up. You want to give your best performance, right? You're doing the Super Bowl show at halftime. You don't want to miss a note, right? This is something that you've worked toward. This is your sort of Olympics final, and you don't want to fuck up. So in that way, there's pressure. But also on the flip side, a lot of the people that go on, especially if they're in the same industry as Joe, it's like, well, I'm fucking running the race as well. I'm putting the reps in. Like 150 episodes a year is not nothing. And I'm speaking to, interesting people with difficult ideas, and it's a broad range of perspectives, and I have to work hard. So, it's maybe you're rolling with a 7th degree black belt, being like, yeah, but I've got, I've got 2 stripes on my black belt. So I reckon I can hold my own. And maybe it's not even a competition. It's supposed to be it's more like a dance partner. But yeah, it's a nerve-wracking experience in the build-up, and then the sitting down and talking feels unbelievably natural. And then, at least in my experience, you sort of come out and you go like, what the fuck did we just talk about for 3.5 hours? I can't really remember anything. And you go, I guess I'm going to find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then it goes up and you hope for the best.
Yeah. If there was any topic that you could instantly just become a fucking wizard at.
Oh, that's cool. AI, I think, would be interesting.
Okay.
Because we're just kind of at the advent of it all now, and a lot of people are talking about it. And I would just really love to fully understand how these LLMs and these GPTs are learning, and sort of what the trajectory is, and I'd be able to understand the lingo. And I think that would just be useful. That'd be cool. And also, I do get the sense that AI and interfacing with that kind of technology is a skill that a lot of people are going to need to develop pretty quickly. And I don't know, I feel a little bit like a boomer going on Facebook for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm able to work it, but I'm not native to it in the same way as maybe like a Generation Alpha kid will be, like it's just, oh yeah, ChatGPT, like that's a thing that we have.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being for us like this fucking magical wizard that lives inside of a chat window, and we're not naturalized to it.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like, I know some creators are concerned about this, AI replacing them. Like if there becomes like an AI Chris Williamson that can just somehow outperform the real Chris Williamson.
We're building a really, really advanced GPT internally so that we can use it as a research assistant, and also as kind of like directory repository for all of the episodes I've ever done. So it's been trained on all 900 episodes, the full transcript. It's separated out speaker from me. It's looked at like.
But did you have that a while ago, chatbot thing?
We did. So that was like the Chrisbot thing, but that was very rough hewn. This would allow me to say, on the second episode I did with Eric Weinstein, what was his term for when people don't believe something you say publicly that you do believe in private? Like what was that term? And it'll be able to pull that out pretty quickly. And we'll also have titles and thumbnails loaded into it. So it'll be a copywriting assistant for us to be able to come up with ideas for new copy. So we'll see. I mean, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. It's fucking expensive, so I hope it does. If I get replaced by AI, I don't know. Again, I don't know. And if you blessed me with this insight about fucking knowing how AI is going to work, I get the sense that what GPTs at the moment and AIs are really good at is synthesizing existing information. What they're not very good at is coming up with novel ideas. I'm not aware, and this is a Dwarkesh Patel insight, we keep being told how much information AI has absorbed. It's read the entire corpus of human history. It's consumed more information than any one individual agent in the entirety of human history. Okay, give me one novel idea it's come up with. Just one new thing.
Yeah.
It's very good at telling you what has happened and being able to decipher stuff, but it can, by design, it can only draw from what it knows and tell you that. It can't infer new things. It's not creative.
Yeah.
If you gave any human on the planet 1/1,000,000th of what ChatGPT has consumed in terms of content, they would have come up with hundreds of new insights and new ideas. And maybe lots of them would have been useless, but they would have been new and novel. And you haven't, unless I'm speaking out of turn, I don't know if we've seen that from AI. So are we going to listen to a show, a podcast, or watch a YouTube channel or read a book to be fed like reliably predictable insights about stuff? That's literally the way that these GPTs work, is that they work out what the most likely next word is going to be, and they just like constantly predictively sort of deploy this sequence, and that's how you end up with the words. I don't know whether that's what we're after. Now, maybe there'll be some step change and it'll have consumed so much information that it's able to churn out novel insights. Maybe this is a processing problem. Maybe it's going to become conscious and it's actually maybe. But at the moment, I am really impressed with what it can do from a research assistant standpoint, and like pretty unimpressed with what it can do from a novel insight standpoint.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it, and I wondered if it could actually give better training and fitness advice than me. So someone who's been in the game for a long time. And I was like, okay, I pretended that I was an absolute newbie. And I was asking it questions so it would tell me, what program should I do? What nutrition program should I follow? And it was like good generic advice, but it just didn't know enough about me. It didn't know about the body composition. It didn't know about like how my body reacts to certain foods, or what keeps me motivated, or what exercises are going to be most suited for my body. So
the interesting thing there is that's just a data problem, right? If you're able to give it more data, it should be able to work that out for you.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing, at least at the moment, is AI seems to be accurate about 90% of the time and confidently wrong about 10% of the time. And you can't distinguish between whether it's the 90% or the 10%.
Yeah.
And it just tells you, and you're like, oh yeah, that must be the case. And you go, oh no, it was just lying. Like you ask, that was like the friend that always has an opinion on something, and you asked him and he said, yeah, this is how you fix the Donbass region. You go, oh, well, I mean, he said it with the same level of certainty that he talked about his actual specialist subject that he does know something about. You go, no, he was bullshitting you. And that is AI a lot at the moment. So yeah, you need like a 10% scrutiny, 10% failure rate in the back of your mind whenever you're interacting with it.
What I would love to see is if you can know exactly to the precise calorie how many calories you burnt and how many calories you consumed. So not like it would just somehow know the food that you consume. It will weigh up the exact macros and calories, and then it would kind of tell you towards the end of the day what it is that you need to do in order.
You can dial it in.
Yeah, like super. I think that will come at some point. And I think Brian Johnson said something like this, like, wouldn't it be good if instead of your tongue, like, or your brain deciding what it is that you should eat, but more so your organs saying,
this is
hey,
what we need.
this is what we need. Please go and eat some of this.
But you're also going to have to interject into willpower and like desire and hunger and stuff there, and to be careful fucking about too much with systems that took millions of years to develop.
Are you pretty good with your training and nutrition at the moment?
It's all right. It takes over. Like, I have other priorities. I've been way more obsessive. What I would say is I'm very efficient. So for including travel time, probably less than 6 hours a week, maybe 7 hours a week, I'm able to hold pretty good condition, stay strong.
Yeah, you were looking pretty vascular and
it's warm.
juicy
it's warm.
yesterday.
It's warm here in Austin, Texas. But yeah, I'm pretty dialed on that, and I enjoy my training. It doesn't take too much willpower out of the main mission, which is working on the show. So,
where do you see the future of podcasting?
I don't think that much is going to change. I think we've seen most of the innovations that are going to come along. We've seen some good stuff, some of which I guess I've contributed to, the advent of a real focus on quality when it comes to video, which I think is...
Yeah, you tried at one point doing the crazy screen.
The LED wall. Yeah, that was cool.
Was it too much though? Do people like it?
Too much in the same way as you can do like fucking Avengers Infinity War, and the scenes are big and so on. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to do The Notebook, but doing it on a green screen with like a battle going on behind you, then it's horses for courses, is what I'm saying.
Tell me how much does it cost? When you're doing a cinematic episode, what's that fucking putting you back?
It depends where it is and who it is and what the crew is. If we can do it in Austin, Texas, we can get better rates. The location is a big part of it, but it can be anywhere from $15,000 to $80,000.
$80,000.
Yeah, but then we've got multi-day shoots on that. It's like lots of days in a row.
Okay, so the equipment it stays there.
Exactly, because one of the big costs is going to be the setup. You've got to get a crew in, a grip, a gaffer, a truck that comes in with the C-stands and the power and the cabling, and then you've got to get the director of photography in, and he dials all of the lighting in. Then you sit in and you give the location for all this time. So you kind of pay expensive setup and a little bit of expensive breakdown at the end. So once you've got in there, trying to bunch together at least a few shoots. But yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone else. I don't think there's really anybody else who shoots on location. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of on location, but it's not like you built this studio yourself. Yeah. You're going to drop into a good local studio. Very few people, like most of the podcasters who are at the level where they could afford to do it, are so big and so busy that they make people come to them.
Yeah.
And most of the people who need to go to the guest aren't at the level where they can afford between 15 and 80 grand to drop this thing. So we're in a kind of unique category here.
I don't think I've seen anyone do it like you.
No one is varying locations. I'm not saying that as a flex. I'm not even convinced that it's a good idea. But what I do know is it's kind of cool, and it means that we basically go on tour, like a touring comedian or a band or something like that. And I get to see a lot of America. I get to have these peak experience projects that I work on with the team, and it's,
I think it shows how much you care, and I think people don't appreciate that. Like I know, because obviously I do it, and I know the costs that are involved with having a camera crew, having people who are editing and doing all of that. Like it's not. I mean,
even the table that's got the it's called Crafty in the film world, which is the table that's got the refreshments on it. Like that needs to be there. And there needs to be insurance. And we need to have...
There needs to be insurance.
They need to be insured for that location for that day. Yeah. Because if someone has a light drop on their head and it fucking kills them, I'm not going to be liable. They need to be insured. And if we're doing it in California, there needs to be union rates on top, and we need to add 20% on for the, US 330, like, replendency tax or whatever the fuck it is. Like, there's always bullshit. So yeah, trying to talk like a professional. I don't want to whine about how difficult it is to make the sausage. It's like, turn up and enjoy the meal, and I'll deal with the stuff behind the scenes. But I appreciate that you kind of see the efforts that I go to for this, because I like pretty things. I like stuff that looks good. I think that effort has utility and beauty has utility, like in and of itself. I don't think that you should always do the most stripped back, like ruthlessly rational approach to doing something, because That's like walking into the Vatican or whatever, not comparing a podcast to the Vatican, but walking in and going, you could have made this way smaller. You didn't need those fancy like decorations all over the place. And you go, well, maybe it's just kind of like nice to have. Maybe it's cool to have. And maybe you go, it's actually a bit gaudy and it's too much. You go, you might be right. But glad that you gave it a crack, and fair play for experimenting and doing something different. So, yeah.
Observing social media and the people that you've had on, have you noticed any trends or patterns when it comes to relevancy? Like, what is it that makes somebody relevant, and is there a way to maintain relevancy over a long period of time?
I mean, you've got a good take on this, right? That you need to keep adapting.
Yeah.
That you can't kind of keep just churning out the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a pretty strong take. Because the last thing that you want is to become a meme of yourself.
Yeah.
If someone asks you a question and they can accurately predict what you're going to say, it's probably a good indication that you need to be reading more or varying what you consume, or going back to the drawing board. This isn't to say that you should have like schizophrenic opinions and you always change your mind. But if it's a new topic and you're very predictable on that new topic, I don't know, have you really thought about it all that much? Or have you just kind of adopted this entire group's ideology and worn it as like a onesie?
I think what I always find it interesting how, when I was getting onto the scene in 2016, there was a lot of other people who were kind of quite relevant and popular back then. But a lot of them ended up dropping off for maybe a number of different reasons. Maybe their stuff just wasn't interesting anymore. I think a lot of the time it was just becoming a little bit too repetitive. And as you age, as you mature, there needs to be, people like to see some sort of evolution. And I think those people have failed to adapt and evolve and just continue to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like, one of my biggest concerns was, am I always going to be Mike the fitness guy? Like, a big part of my identity in the first couple of years doing YouTube was my physique and the way I look. And I'm like, what okay, so what happened? Worst case scenario. And it's not even a worst case scenario. It's an inevitable scenario. I'm not going to be able to keep this up forever. So then what? Like, why are people going to want to listen to you? Why do they want to tune in? So I was like, okay, I need to diversify. I can't be just Mike the fitness guy. There needs to be.
You said earlier on about getting older as a guy, and this is true for both men and women. Like, your looks are a depreciating asset as you age, and your mind is an appreciating asset as you age. So you should probably invest your self-worth wisely. Like, where is it that you're deriving most of your sense of confidence and self-worth from? Is it from the thing that you know for certain is going to become less useful over time? Like, your appearance outwardly, or is it, you can take it from like being a good person, you can take it from being kind, or being patient, or being wise, or like being insightful, or standing up for the little guy, or like really doing my research before I comment on a topic. Like, all of these things are like, fuck, like, that's cool. And you can continue to just accumulate that year after year, decade after decade. You get to 70 or 80 and you still rule, but you rule in a different way. You don't rule because you've got abs, you rule because you've got virtues.
How are you feeding your brain aside from the podcast? Are you just consuming books?
Not
or listening
really.
to other podcasts?
Yeah, so listen to other shows.
Who's your favorites?
I still listen to a lot of Rogan. I think he's got great guest selection. I listen to Lex. I listen to Huberman. The All In podcast is really good. Tech VC investing podcast. Pirate Wires with Mike Solana is great. Some newsy stuff here and there. You'll check in on, I guess it's kind of a bit more YouTube channel-y. That Kyle Kalinske if I'm listening to people from the left, or like maybe a Ben Shapiro or whatever if I'm listening to people from the right. Tim Dillon, Theo Vaughn. It's like varied.
It's a lot of content.
It is, but I mean, I don't listen all the time. It's like relatively blended. But
that's one of my biggest frustrations is that I really struggle to find the time now to listen to all the episodes that I want to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, same. But I read Substack. I read a lot of Substack. So articles. I've found a lot of books are kind of one or two really good insights spread out over 300 pages, and very few of them needed to be as long as they are. And a lot of articles will give you a more synthesized, like condensed takeaway.
Books really are drawn out.
It's a fucking heavy investment. And in some ways that's good because it allows you to sort of, you're patiently marinating in the insights that you've got. But on the flip side of that, you go, well, I'm just taking a very long time to not learn so much. And maybe there's value in that. There probably is. There's probably a lot that I'm missing by not spending quite so much time with books. But I like Substack articles because they tend to be about between 5 and 20 minutes long, which is usually about the amount of time I have to read. So I get to start something and finish it in one sitting. And you kind of draw to a close this idea or whatever. And that feels satisfying to me.
Do you know, I heard an interesting thing. I've not actually tried it yet. If you read the book but listen to the audio book at the same time, supposedly it sinks in more.
Well, I have heard that as well. I don't know if it's true, but it's kind of like the difference between running on a road and running on a treadmill. That running on a treadmill forces you to keep going, or else you get thrown off the back of it. Running on a road, you can slow down or speed up as much as you want. Whereas I guess reading a book whilst listening to the audio allows you to keep moving through the book, regardless of whether you start to get distracted. You're like, you begin to veer off a little bit, and then you get pulled back on because you're still on the treadmill and you don't get thrown out the back.
Yeah, because even with films and TV series, I need the subtitles now.
Oh, I can't deal with it.
I don't like subtitles.
No, I hate it.
Why?
Well, because I end up, it's like this weird forced reading. It's like, hey, I came to watch this movie and I'm having to read it. I'm having to read this movie.
Without appreciating the visual
movie.
masterpiece.
Yeah, you're not looking at the actual movie. You're just reading. Because make no mistake, you don't look at the characters that much. You read the text and then like glance up and have a little look at what's going on and then the next text. And you're like bouncing between what's being written and what you're looking at. And I frankly hate it and I want to defund it. I want to get rid of it. It does my head in.
Speaking of visual masterpieces, you're venturing into the vlogging world a little bit more now.
Yeah.
How are you finding that?
Oh, I love it. I had a conversation with a few guys last year and they said, why is it that you're not showing kind of more stuff that isn't just a conversation? I think it would be cool for you. I think you'd enjoy it. I think it would get more of your personality across. I think that it would be a nice sort of archive of where you were at in life and not just the ideas of somebody else. And I found the one guy that I would be prepared to do it with who shoots in a much more sort of artistic, documentarian, cinematography style than most vlogs. Like, hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to see if we can, eat 10,000 calories and burn them off in 24 hours, whatever the fuck. I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to feel very peaceful. Then people come and they watch this vlog and the cuts are they're not fast.
Yeah.
We're 20-second scenes, 30-second scenes, minute-long scenes of stuff. And then every so often there's a editing flex. There's like a cinematography flex where he'll do something really, really beautiful. And then it's back to this nice pace again. And I love it. It's been cool. It's been different. I think I kind of developed a weird kind of imposter syndrome from always presenting other people's ideas for so long. I said before, I feel like I'm obliged to give people a good time when they come on the show. I think part of that is you're always the least important, most boring, stupidest person in the room, right? Every podcast that you do, that's typically, maybe not this one, but like that's typically the way that it works. And what that means is you maybe aren't so sure about your own level of interestingness, because what you're doing is people are here to hear my guest. And it's taken me a little bit of time to get back to the stage now where I think, oh, okay, I actually maybe people do care about the stuff that I've got to say outside of me just being a really elite question asker or idea contributor to someone who is the real talent. Maybe I can be somebody that sort of stands alone as this, and writing has helped with that because it's just you. Even if you're repurposing other people's ideas, they're in your words. Solo episodes have helped a lot. The Q&As that I do, the lessons episodes that I do that are catch-ups, and then the vlogging has helped as well. So
you underestimate how many people are tuning in to hear your
I certainly have.
You know what always stood out to me when I think you interviewed Patrick Bet-David, and he said there was like 3 things that makes a good podcast host. One of them was, I think, like making the guest feel comfortable. Another one was them wanting to know your opinion on specific topics. And then I can't remember what the third one was.
Maybe questions or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he brought that up, and he basically said, he kind of not called me out, but mentioned people want to hear your opinion. I think it's important for you to have an opinion. And I don't disagree. And yeah,
the problem with having an opinion is there's going to be people who don't agree with your opinion.
Yeah, and you're going to get in trouble for it. But if your intention is to get to any appreciable size on the internet, there is going to be a significant cohort of people that do not like you and don't think that what you're doing is good, and either purposefully or accidentally misjudge the things that you're doing, think that you're a danger, think that you are stupid or useless or evil. And that's not a bug, that's a feature of lots of people exist on the internet, and they have different opinions. Those 2 things, you just put those 2 things together, there's going to be a lot of people that hate you. So you kind of need to just accept that as the cost of doing
It's quite hard to imagine that you are getting that, but
I would say for platform size, I think I receive like a disproportionately small amount of hate, but that's also because I'm not, for the most part, throwing out gregarious, wild ideas. A lot of the time it's about the guest, and the guests I'm choosing to bring.
I think people will just try and get you for the guest selection.
Well,
I remember when you brought on Dan Bilzerian, and that was a good episode. But then literally before, it'd only been like 5 or 10 minutes, and already people were there just to...
He went kind of hard on the Jews in between... In the interim between me recording it and me releasing it. So that was kind of bad timing.
Yeah.
Dan went from my episode
Patrick
to go and do PBDs.
Yeah, and it's very different.
He could not have been more different. I don't think the word Jew was mentioned once in our entire episode, and it was like the most common word said in the entirety of... So I go...
Did that one come out before?
Yeah, and then Patrick slipstreamed me and put that one out first, which made me look like I'd just this huge furor.
He'd be a good guest. Let's
bring him on and not talk about the... you're going to get in trouble. But, also, I think if people know that you're trying to be curious, you're trying to play this game well, you've got the best interests of curiosity at heart, I don't think that you're going to get in trouble that much.
No. What do you want to be known for?
Helping people understand themselves, I think. That's what, in my late 20s and still up to now, there is no instruction manual that comes with the human brain. And a lot of the time we feel like the challenges that we face are a personal curse that we've been bestowed with. It's like, well, why have I got to deal with that? And if you have enough conversations, you realize that lots of people feel like that.
Yeah.
And that your unique snowflake pathology that you think is some weird individual challenge that only you face, you realize that, actually, like loads of other people feel this too. And well, that makes me feel less alone, and it makes me feel less broken. And maybe it means that I can fix it. And there's some hope from this person. And oh my God, that person who I respect also does this. Wow. And I just, that sense of being seen, especially in somebody that you admire or you respect, or just knowing that you're not alone in whatever it is that you're dealing with, both good and bad. Perfect example, I went to a meetup about 18 months ago, and there was a bunch of very successful business people there, like at least 2 billionaires in the room. It was in a shed, actually. At least 2 billionaires. I was by far the poorest person in the room, like by a factor of like probably 10. And it was a post-dinner mastermind type thing, and they said, hey, we can kind of crowdsource this. Anybody got a question? Anybody got any problems they're dealing with at the moment? This dude, there's a couple of people down, put his hand in the air, and he said, my wife's 8 months pregnant, and I don't know if I'm going to be a good dad. I was like, well, fuck, this took a left turn, but I'm way more interested now than someone talking about how to maximize EBITDA or like how to get the fucking profit margins up or something. And this guy, felt a lot of shame about the fact that his wife was going through all of these hormonal changes and he didn't feel that different. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to love the kid. Like, I'm waiting for this fathering paternal instinct to kick in, and it's not here. And two other fathers in the room said, I just want to tell you, man, that's totally normal. I felt the same. Wait 3 months after the baby's laid on your chest for a little while. You're going to be completely transformed. Don't fear it. I thought that I was alone and unique in this as well. It's not a problem. You'll be fine. And this guy's like, oh, he's seen for the first time in this room of people, and he was really worried, and he didn't tell his wife, and he couldn't tell his wife. Fuck, like that's amazing. Like you've gifted this guy relief. And I think if I can try and achieve that more on the show, that's something that I would value. If somebody did it to me, if I can do that at scale, if I can understand yourself.
I think there's a lot of youngsters or just individuals who are looking up to their idol, just assuming that they've got everything figured out and they know how everything works. But everyone's winging it.
It is idiots all the way up, dude.
Yeah.
That's the lesson that I've learned. I've been around some of the richest, most statusful, most followed, famous people on the planet since moving to America, and no one really knows what they're doing. It is idiots all the way to the top. And if that doesn't give you some relief to just drop your fucking problems and realize that you'll probably figure it out just the way you always have. You are the sort of person that can deal with change. I don't know what will. So yeah, like hooray for the people who don't know how to do it and decide to just build the plane as they're flying in any case.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, man. I mean, I've learned a lot from your podcast, the episodes of guests you've had on. And, every time you get a banger of a guest on, like, I get gas. I'm so happy. I'm like, no way, you did it.
Yeah, fucking running it back, dude. Well, I appreciate you. And it's, like I said yesterday on the vlog, it's cool. This is it's a good argument for staying in touch with people for a long while, because one of the sad realizations of getting older is that you can't make old friends. You don't get to make new old friends. You only get to hold on to the ones that you've already got.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool that we held on. So I appreciate you.
Where can people find you?
Modern Wisdom on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Chris Williamson on YouTube. And if you like these sorts of insights, I do a newsletter that's got 300,000 people that read it every Monday, and you can get that at chriswillx.com/books, and that's a free reading list of 100 books that you should read before you die. Maybe you want to get into reading. There's fiction, there's non-fiction, there's real life stories. It's like, I really curated this list. So you want to get some idea for books, you're a bit of an adult infant like I was and still am, chriswillx.com/books. Sign up there and all of the links will.
Shout out to Neutonic as well.
Neutonic, next day delivery, free on Amazon Prime, UK and US. Neutonic.com/modernwisdom. Fucking go.
Yeah, boy.